Well, this is frustratingly late this week. Had to wait for the TV Nihon translation because I wanted quality Kiwami debut. And apparently they wanted quality Kiwami debut, as I didn't find a single issue with their translation, which usually can spot one or two things, but the quality control, they wanted to get it perfect. Or at least that's my understanding of why it took so long. Anyways, yeah, hi. Toqger. Yasuko Kobayashi is really ridiculously burning out. I mean, this week's episode had a monster based around the powers of manifesting one's dream desire and destroying it. Now, people who have watched series by Yasuko Kobayashi before would notice that as sounding kind of familiar. And it is. Kamen Rider Rose, the unicorn yummy. You see, it had the power to manifest the ultimate culmination of one's desires, or that dream moment that they most desire, and pull it out of them, and then destroy it, thus permanently destroying the desire. Now, it resulted in one of the most epic moments in that series, because it tried to do it to the series protagonist, Eiji Hino, who had lost his desires due to events in this before the series, and it pulled out of him a holographic representation of the world. And he didn't finish pulling it out because it was still growing. It was... his desire is the world, or to save the world, or that kind of thing, and so it couldn't possibly destroy it, so it shoved it back in it to show the depths of which he had this power that all of these monsters possessed at their cores, the power to manipulate desire, which is what made him such a dangerous Oz, as his desire runs so deep, his selfish desire ran so deep that everyone else even the monsters mistaked it for selflessness. Anyways, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. It pulls out people's desires, destroys them, and creates darkness for the shadow line. Now, what's interesting here is a few things. The first one is more crapping on Mio. Yeah, that's been a theme lately of kind of denigrating the yellow of the designated yellow of the team. This time by showing she has the lowest imagination score out of the team. Now, it's not what you have, it's how you use it. That can apply to so many things, and to me, she's a practical person, so she can do more with less. And pretty much that's how she's been operating, because she wields a freaking hammer and she does well with it. But because of that, because the conductor, and especially Wright, denigrate her in the opening theme where they're playing golf to determine their imagination score, I think this is a throwaway to things like Caddyshack and... what's the one with Adam Sandler that's Happy Gilmore, where it's about the imagine, be the ball, how to get it there, or to best do this kind of thing. And that makes sense, to be honest, because you gotta picture in your head where to move these things, so you have to line yourself up, you gotta coordinate it, and then you have to physically strike it in the exact right spot. But you can't always correlate action. You can't always correlate thoughts into actions, and that seems to be kind of the Toqger thing, in that with their imagination power, they can bypass reality. At least that's been the continuing theme. So, while she's the most capable of doing this kind of thing in reality, when it comes to imagination power, she falls short. But those two should even out, instead of one making her completely the weakest of them. And, yeah, because of all of that crap, when she actually gets into battle and is fighting it, and trying to picture how she'll win, she pictures herself losing because they sapped her confidence from her and thus weakened her ability to use her physical prowess. Way to go, assholes! Yeah, it ends up having the monster manifest her dream desire, which doesn't relate at all to dream desires. Why am I surprised at this point? It manifests a anthropomorphic version of a doll she had as a kid. Now, one of my running theories for the Toqger team is the reason why they're so immature idiots is because they're not actually adults, they're actually kids in adult bodies, and whatever interacting with the shadow line screwed with them physically or something, that they imagine themselves as being older, more mature, older, more powerful to actually deal with this, and that would end up actually creating the rainbow line. Fan theory at this point. But this still gels with that, because why else would she have a childhood doll on her mind that she didn't even remember until these events? I mean, maybe subconscious, I don't know. It just seems like you set this up and then you used it in the worst possible way. And that seems to be kind of another theme to Toqger. You have good ideas, but you use them horribly. I mean, I honestly believe that Yasuko Kobayashi is burned out. I mean, last year, 6 episodes made into 2 movies and, OVA series kind of thing, except it was apparently shown in movies. I'm talking about Zero Black Blood, and Zero Black Blood was brilliant, and she wrote that. And then, second Sentai in a row that she's written for, and it sucks. And she didn't used to suck. She's written good things. O's is my favorite Kamen Rider series. And yeah, she's hit and miss with a lot of her works. That happens. Sometimes things fall through, but she's never been consistently bad before this. I don't know, maybe it's executive meddling again, because, executive meddling apparently got involved with Go Busters, though, as I've said, Go Busters sucked, so any type of meddling could have probably improved what was already there. Anyways, so now, since darkness is generated from destroying these things, they have to protect the anthropomorphic doll, which is named Mikey. And he's a contrary, which I don't remember where I picked up that term, but it's essentially saying, you can't do that, so it does it. You should, in fact, one specific incident is, don't cross the sidewalk on a red light. No, I'm gonna do that. And crosses, oh look, there's a truck barreling down, Miyu has to save you from being destroyed. Killed. Damn it. And it's like that for all of the things' actions, so if that's satire on how kids act, and how it can really hurt them, yeah, I can see that working, especially since this is probably the most childish Super Sentai series in a long time. Now, a lot of them have comedy that's more geared to a younger audience, or stuff like that. Hell, I recently watched a review of Magi Ranger, and it seemed kind of like that kind of absurd thing, but it doesn't harm the show to have those elements. And when what you do and it harms the show, that's when it becomes a problem. Go Busters was 75% fight scene to the denigration of the stories, and because it's Osamu Kaneda, the fights sucked. I really hate that I have to hate Go Busters, but there was, instead, on top of the insulting elements to it, had there been more story, it probably would not have been so boring. I mean, that's ultimately why I don't like Go Busters. It was boring. I didn't care about anything. And I can't believe I'm still talking about this 2 years after the show is done with. Year and a half. Yeah. Anyways. Hikari remembers this, and why do they keep crapping on these two? I mean, they're the ones I'm most inclined to like. Granted, they're still idiots because they blindly follow right, but moving on. Hikari figures that the test from the earlier part of the episode is wrong, and Mio just doesn't use all of her imagination, which is a constant. This is continuity coming in that was established the first time they crapped on Mio with the whole Tokati thing, which was apparently character development in episode, I want to say 3, possibly 4, somewhere in that range. And so it's not just out of the blue, but kind of consequences, but the framing device was what sucked about it. And this monster kind of helped Mikey helped prove why that was wrong. So the thing ends up being killed anyways, but Miu doesn't generate darkness or explosive darkness like the storyline says she will generate for the Shadow Line. Instead, she shines with righteous justice and apparently unlocks the section of her imagination she had sequestered this thing away in. Yeah, really doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's Toqger for you. Monster isn't destroyed, though. It's taken by General Schwartz because it wants to use its imagination desire manifesting power in something. Now, the thing that was interesting about this is that it was a Grita monster, in that this is probably this is the second of her faction of monsters, which means they're more from a childish point of view, and she's wondering if she can do things, mainly because she's exceedingly introverted, insecure, what have you, and that she's being railroaded, pun, into marrying Zeto, because I refused to do the stupid translation nonsense. I'm wondering if she might become the big bad. Because Zeto's obviously a joke, because he's not even really a darkness thing. He wants to be in the light. So I'm just curious there. Anyways, Gaim. Gaim. Yes. Okay, not as cool and awesome looking as Kachidoki Arms, but Kiwami has his own brand of style. Admittedly, I'm with everybody else, and I am not a big fan of the suit they chose for this one. It's apparently based off a set of Shogun armor, specifically Oda Nobunaga. Nobunaga's got a tenuous connection to Kamen Rider in that they seem to have started. I don't know what's the phrase. I'm seeing a lot of Sengoku period connections in other series that's kind of going obsessive. I mean, I know Movie War Core is frustrating. I think I kind of went over that before. It's just that I think they could have used a different set of armor. What irritates me the most is I think the color balance and how pointy his hat is. I mean, people didn't like that about For's, but it was a rocket. It was supposed to be aerodynamic, so when he was flying around with the rocket arm, and people didn't like it. I mean, they either go for rounded or, with the crests at the front of it. And it doesn't work for all of them. There are a lot of modulated designs that I'm actually a big fan of, aside from all the old helmets. Kabuto. Yeah, everybody loves Kabuto. And Decade's was pretty good, too. And in that design of a different head crest that took over more of the helmet than normal. But yeah, it adds too much to the head. However, Kiwami is fantastic in his own right due to he lowers slightly in defensive stats, but due to less cumbersome armor, he is much faster, and the trade-off is that he can use all of the weapons from all of the armored riders, so, and with the better physical stats, better endurance stats, it jacks up their powers immensely. Like, he is twice as strong as he was before. Not versus Kachidoki, but I'm referring to base states and the energy arms. So, twice the power of the base equipment, and then powered up with advantage of the Kiwami Lock Seed, which is a key. Kiwami. We've gone over this. But, yeah, it had kind of an, I don't want to say excessive, but they kind of spammed the weapons a bit. And kind of had him dominate Demushu with half his arsenal in rapid succession. I would think it would have been better to keep it to the base four. The base four being Gaim, Ryugen, Zangetsu, and Baron, because he also calls upon Durian's equipment, and yeah, he just called upon that's the only extra one, but it was 6 weapons, and then he ended Demushu with the DJ gun in its Zambato mode, which I'm blanking on the specific name with it, by combining with the Muso Saber. So he used the Orange Sword, the Baron Spear, Durinoko, Ryugen's gun, Zangetsu's shield from his original form, Muso Saber. Yep, 7 weapons out of 14, 15. I think it's 11, but I'm probably getting that number wrong. So possibly 15. Oh yeah, it is 15 with the extra armors. That was odd though, because when the Kiwami Lock Seed called down all of the armors, yeah, this was another thing about it. The Kiwami transformation calls down all of the armors, like Cosmic State did with all the switches, to fuse with the body, and then the Kachidoki armor casts off to reveal the Kiwami form as the color palette overflows. It's essentially a fusion of Cosmic State's creation, the armor cast off of the Kabuto system, and then the power overflow of the Fives Gears with Fives Blaster. And those were good combinations to choose. It is going to play havoc with the toy line, because now you can't have a Kachidoki figure that can cast off correctly, because then you'll be able to see the color scheme and, no wait, this is Bandai, and I have the few transforming Digimon figures from way back, so, I guess not as much. Anyways, I guess I should actually start recapping the episode, because, does a lot happen. Demushu retreats after he's completely exhausted fighting Baron and Knuckle, and he has the same ability as other Invests to eat Helheim fruits to regain strength. So he powers up, his armor gets slightly different, and gets so much stronger than he was before. And that is ultimately the Invest's trump card. And the Femushu, for that matter. The Femushu are the overlords. In that, if they can retreat, they can eat Helheim fruits and recover. So their army is regenerating faster, and on top of just being able to turn anything and everyone who comes in contact and eats the fruits. Now, this is a challenge that no other Kamen Rider has faced. I mean, you could say something like Decade and the armies across dimensions, or Blade and the Roaches, or even O's with the Endgame entity that was a culmination of the core metals that were just spawning legions of Yummy. The thing about all of those is that there was one central thing they could stop. In Blade, it was sealing the Joker undead. In Decade, it was getting someone to kill him, which reset the dimension barriers, or something. I'm still a bit blanky on that. And with O's, it was destroying the structure, which he did by all the dinosaur medals that Maki gave him, and yeah, he was just trying to kill himself, wasn't he? But this is an interdimensional army that can easily spawn more of the militia. So it's an issue of scale. I mean, Black RX, that was another thing. Dimensional invaders, large legions, but they were limited as they could only get so many through at a time, and there were environmental issues that kept them from easily adapting to the environment. So that created a choke point. The Invests have innumerable numbers. They're all monsters, and while the cracks are a limiting factor in that they don't continuously spawn, we've found something out about that. Red U's the one that's been doing it. Red U is the green overlord Invest, and in this episode he begins a mass Invest invasion, infesting the entirety of Yggdrasil Tower with the Helheim plants and ordering all lesser Invests into it to invade the human realm. Now, I've mentioned before that Red U is essentially Michi's counterpart, in that he does things through manipulation, through using pawns, and this is continuing that theme in that we find out why Red U led, more of why Red U led Sid to Roshuo. It was to see how strong Roshuo was with a challenger, and now that he knows how strong he is, he's not going to try for the forbidden fruit at this time. He's going to try other means. And in the meantime, he's going to get what he really wanted, in that he's going to conquer a new kingdom, so when he gets the forbidden fruit, because that's in play now, he will have something to rule over. And Michi has apparently allied himself with Red U. He just betrays everybody. Oh, no way, I won't betray you. Stab in the back. Shoot in the back, actually. That's a funny thing that one of my Twitter followers mentioned, in that Gaim used Ryugen's gun, the Budo gun, the Budo Ryo, that's actually the name of the thing, better than Michi did, in that he actually, fires the damn gun. And it's powered up because of Kiwami arms, yeah, but he was actually shooting with it, because if you remember most of Michi's fights, he gets in close and doesn't really use the gun that much. You have a gun, you're supposed to stay at range. Now, the only time I can think of where he actually used it at range was when he shot Kota in the back. Yeah. Admittedly, Gaim was also up close, but he was using it to push Demushu away, so capability-wise, it was still more on what guns are supposed to be, ranged weapons. And anyways, here's the turning... This was also, I think, the turning point for Yoko. Yoko has been kind of a mindless follower of Ryoma Sengoku. And Sengoku, when the Yggdrasil Tower is infested, the entire thing was covered in the plants, he used an escape pod to flee from everything, after repeatedly telling Yoko that they will keep on attacking and doing all this stuff until they're down. And when it's time for him to show his mettle show his resolve in this, he flees. And Yoko ends up being saved by all the beat riders. And she sees Kaito taking a leadership position to keep them all around and rallies them. And I think she's switching sides because she's realizing she banked on the wrong card. Because previously she was near exclusively helping Ryoma. And she must have thought that if a new world is required to have a new leader, and then since, I don't know, we really don't know much of their backstory, but she was banking on Ryoma for some reason. We're probably going to see a change with that. I mean, Yoko is that rare on-series writer that's been around for a while. We've rarely seen that, and I really like that. And it helps that she can kick the ass of all the other writers without even transforming. Bar possibly Orin, because Orin was also military trained, skilled, actually a fighter before these events, whereas everybody else was not really known. Anyway, my point in all this is, yeah, I'm still loving that Yoko's around and not as eye candy. And I hope to see more of her collusion with the rest of the beat writers in the next arc of this series. I just really hope they don't do something stupid like, oh no, oh, he did that to protect himself because there was no other options? Yeah, I really hope they don't go through with that, and knowing Gen Urobuchi, I doubt he will, because he ordered so many people to their deaths, and she was there as it happened. It happened to so many of them that the remainder of the forces she was leading left her alone to face this army, and the one she had all expectations to come and help her, to bring support to she was doing this for him, and he left her to die. If she goes to that, that will probably be the first real thing I would take issue with. It is not going to happen in 100 years. Anyways, the beat writers unite. The standing beat writers. Baron, Knuckle, we get back Gridon, and Bravo this battle. And they all team up with Marika to take on the hordes as they're coming in. And then here comes powered up Demushu. They use their finishing moves in a waves. Oleats, Sparklings, Squashes, all of them. All at the same time, and Demushu just demolishes them. As in, counters them, and it shows how big a difference the Overlords are. They're already slightly above the Energy Riders as it is, and Kachidoki, even injured, was just putting on the same level, but as them when they're normal. And it really took a wave of Kiwami-powered armaments to even weaken him enough to kill him. And so I'm wondering how much more of that would Roshuo take when he's on an even other level than that. I skipped over the bit with Sagara and Kota where he gets the Kiwami Lock Seed. It's pretty much Sagara interesting Kota in power, for the sake of power, to become an overlord, to rule the world, to save it, and he really is the snake in the Tree of Eden. Not Tree of Eden, Garden of Eden. And Kota is blinded because Kachidoki wasn't enough. This was the first time Kachidoki had failed him, and failed him completely. Not just against Demushu, but bombarded on all sides by the Energy Riders, by Yggdrasil, it was the first time, and it was absolute complete defeat. And so he had a moment of weakness, and Mai was trying to stop him, and because she was there, but paralyzed, and so fell for the trap. Roshuo said to test the one with the he wanted to get. It's going to be difficult now, and I love it. I love it. I so love it because it's a continuing culmination, and admittedly, I just got through watching Kuga. Yeah, 2 months leeway, and I'm seeing a difference in philosophical means in that, in the way Godai in Kuga went around attaining power and the machinations that lead to power in recent series. And it's not that Kota's method was wrong, it's just that it's a striking contrast on how different it is 15 years down the line. In that Godai unlocked powers that he didn't even know about because he didn't know about it, where Kota is being tested for this gift by the power of his drive and, for lack of a better term, greed for it. And neither, like I said, neither are wrong in the method. It's just night and day how it was approached, I think. I need to rewatch the episode for that bit alone, because it's not the best. It's not like the Kachidoki obtainment, where it was building Kota back up. It was more like a second piece of that, in that he's found the resolve. Will he take it to its eventual end? Gotta pause it so it doesn't time out. As for Garo this week, I think the format's starting to I think my early excitement about the different format is starting to wane a bit, because this was not that good. It was still better than a lot of series I can name. It's still better than Toqger. And it had a hell of a good twist to it, but we're not spending a lot of time with the main characters, and I think that's part of the problem. In that it's more focused on setting up the monster than it is moving forward the characters. At least in this case. And after that strong character-focused one with Raiga a couple episodes ago, I'm wanting more of that. Anyways, the monster of the week is based off a lizard, and oh my, this was a twist, because it opens with the guy finding a naked woman. Yes, you see naked women in this episode. Perverts, go ahead. Watch it. You will see nakedness. I must give props to that actress, because it got pervy. It got really, really pervy, and I can't imagine how uncomfortable that is to be naked in front of people, in front of a camera, so it will be recorded and broadcast on nationwide television. And now I'm thinking up a bit that Spoonie did in To Boldly Flee, where it's the ego part of that examination, and he comes out in Wom. And now I'm laughing, and I hate that scene. And he did it again recently, and focus. Guy, I think either high school or college student, because he has access to a student lab, which has a bunch of live animals in it, and he takes the woman there and then feeds her, after she eats a fish, a bunch of the animal life. And the thing that's weird about the kid is he's putting on a comparison to mantises, as in praying mantises. And first off, when she started eating things, I thought, praying mantis! It's a praying mantis horror. It's going to eat you. And then it gets weird in that he wants to be eaten by the praying mantis. As in, he's the male. After praying mantis' mates, the female eats the male. Or maybe it's after giving birth. But the point is, the male dies after the female's been satisfied. And he's wanting to do that, and it's weird as we see it from this perspective of this woman being a monster. Hell, it sheds its skin, and it kills another guy that comes in and eats him, and the guy that's her companion, been looking after her, says, "No, why didn't you eat me?" And it is so twisted. I think part of it is the horror element is kind of, I'm starting to get desensitized to it, at least in this presentation. And then it keeps shedding, it keeps molting, and the twist is the woman is not the horror. Yeah, it's the dude. The thing about it was that the specific horror breed was one that lays dormant in its host until it feeds enough, and the body of the woman was part of either a delusion or a way for it to store its power until it was ready to reawaken. There are multiple things, because when the Makai Knights confront, you see flashes of what actually happened and not what we had seen. We had an unreliable narrator to convey these things, because we were doing it from his viewpoint. Unreliable narrators are not done much in fiction these days, because, well, people feel gypped that what we saw was not what was actually happening. However, for a horror series, I liked that twist. It's just that I'm becoming desensitized to all the horror, and I'm wanting more of the character development stuff that we got teased with. Because I am a character and story person in my movies. That's in my movies, in my media, in my games. That's kind of why I really did not like the new Godzilla movie, because the characters sucked. Amongst a bunch of other reasons. I'm really going to have to get to that sooner or later. So yeah, Garo was good, again. It's just that, like I've been saying, the format is beginning to wear on me. So I'm starting to pick up a few more of the flaws that I previously was probably overlooking. Gotta say though, the effects for the molting, because when we had the unreliable narrator, it was molting out of the skin, and I'm not even sure how they did that, because it was not CGI effects for that. It was her skin was actually had to come apart. It's in one scene, bulbous popping out, and then in the next you see, oh, that's just like a cocoon layer, and it's the woman again. And it was really good. It was, practical effects are superior to CGI effects. Still to this day. Although most people will definitely be watching this episode for the naked women. So, a wrap up. Toqger's still bad. Gaim, still building to the brilliant payoff I know Urobuchi has waiting for us. And Garo, good, but we need more character stuff soon. On the previews front, we know a few things. Toqger is getting the 6th man to the band really soon, and we know it's a Shadow Kaijin that's turned good, so we know that can happen. And on the Gaim front, the beat writers are continuing their alliance, and Mai's worried about Kota and his decisions, and the fake Zangetsu thing with Michi is finally getting exposed thanks to Oren. Oren rocks. I didn't watch the Garo preview. I don't usually watch the Garo previews. Hopefully I will have this up at my normal time next week with those episodes. I'm dependent on the fan subs, so that's just how it falls. Later.